Assa, dudes. We're back with another week of the CIL. Feels like it's been a really long time because I think we got our battle with Chase done relatively quick, and this one's at the very end of week 7 here. Playoffs are pretty much all but guaranteed. So this week, given our comfortable positioning on the standings, I decided to bring what I'm calling my Trojan Horse squad for Kyle because Kyle is a phenomenal coach and he is most likely going to be a playoff contender. It does depend on how Craig and he both finish out these last few games. But I don't want to reveal all the tricks up my sleeve because I do feel like I have some maybe even better options to bring. But I wanted to still make a really good squad, and I definitely wanted to win. Kyle's rocking a really cool team of Mega Venusaur, Zapdos, Mew, Zygarde 50%, Entei, Sylveon, Nidoqueen, Bisharp, Tentacruel, Conkeldurr, Haxorus, and Poisonium Z. Now, we have Normalium Z this week, so it's another week of like kind of pointless Z crystals. We're not going to bring one, and it didn't. Spoilers, he didn't bring his either. Like, I guess he could have brought Nidoqueen or Tentacruel or something, but they're not that great in this matchup because Nidoqueen gives us a chance to set up sand and blah blah blah. He also got Mega Venusaur, which was something I had my eye on this season. Didn't really like make a plan to draft around it, but I do feel like Mega Venusaur is really strong in the meta, and it's just really strong in draft in general because what are you going to hit it with? Fighting and Psychic. It's pretty easy to synergize with that. He does have the Bisharp, the Zapdos to help cover those weaknesses. I do expect him to bring Conkeldurr because he could get a nice quick Mach Punch off on Excadrill to help deal with our sand mode, which has been pretty solid this year. Hasn't swept in the ways that like you might expect, but it's put a lot of pressure on people and has weakened teams for other members to go through. So as you can see, we are bringing the sand again this week. Big Mama is physically defensive to help take on, what is she taking on? Conkeldurr, maybe. Yeah, I think it's really just Conkeldurr and maybe a switch into Entei. We're actually not too worried about Entei, but yeah, she's physically defensive. Also supposed to get up rocks. Guacamole, as you can see, that's gonna come into play later. It's supposed to be Sand Rush. The Choppleberry is to prevent Conkeldurr from getting away with those sneaky Mach Punches. Poseidon is a slightly bulkier spread. He speed creeps Venusaur, I think. Yeah, I think he does, or I wouldn't have put Psychic on. I don't think I would have bothered otherwise. Scald Psychic, Ice Beam, Hidden Power Fighting because in terms of physical offense, we don't have a Dark Resist. That's another reason Big Mama is physically defensive. We don't have a Dark Resist, so I didn't want Bisharp to just come in willy-nilly and get those nice knockoffs set up, whatever. Hidden Power Fighting was for that. Z's is, I honestly can't remember what he's speed creeping. It has to be like Zapdos or something, but why would 204? I don't think he needs that. Oh, you know what I might have done? I think I was speed creeping Zygarde 10% by accident, and that's on me. But anyway, Hurricane, Hidden Power, Ice Break, U-turn. We are modest because we want to kill that Venusaur. Venusaur could pose some pretty serious problems because he can take on Excadrill relatively well. We also have the Brick Break again for the Bisharp, the U-turn because we're faster than everything, so we can get some nice momentum if necessary. Beef Jones. We have a specially defensive Beef Jones rocking the thick fat with Curse Facade, Rest, Sleep Talk. His normal resists include Bisharp, and I believe that's it. The Facade is so that if burned, we can still damage anything. The Entei could hit it. Curse is really good for him because his physical attackers, after a couple curses, aren't going to be doing too much to Snorlax, and we can pretty much just rest, Sleep Talk, and roll Facades and get attack boost from that as well. And finally, we have RNGesus with Volt Switch, Hidden Power Ice, Knockoff Fly. We are rocking a Defiant Life Orb set because he could bring the Tentacruel. That's a totally viable form of hazard removal against me. I don't think he brings it because I have stuff like Tornadus. I do have Excadrill and a Sand mode, and I have Kyurem. So there's a lot of things that deter the Tentacruel, and I don't have to build particularly specifically for the Tentacruel because I have so many ways of dealing with it. So I think more than likely he brings a Defogger, maybe Zapdos, maybe Mew, and that's why I wanted to bring a Defiant. Mostly, well, not mostly, but some physical attacking. This spread is actually really specific. The 168 creeps, I think, I don't know, it wouldn't have been Zygarde. It probably creeps like max speed Zapdos or something. The fly is to hit Venusaur because, it's flying stab. We could have done Psychic, but I think fly does more. And if he decides to switch, we can just Volt Switch out on the Zapdos into like Hippowdon to set up Sand and stuff like that. So this made a lot of sense. Hidden Power Ice, obviously for the Zygarde. Knock off in case Muse his Defogger. He defogs, we get the +2, we knock off. This set KOs physically defensive Mew. So that's the team. RNG's is rounding it out. Ugh, what is this brightly colored? There we go. Oh, you can't even see it anyway. Well, for me. So as we can see, he's bringing a lot of the stuff we expected. The Conkeldur's there. The Haxorus I was kind of surprised to see. Haxorus is really good in a lot of matchups, but I didn't think it came here. Maybe he was Scarf as just as a countermeasure against Kyurem from getting out of hand. He did mention he was very relieved not to see it. Kyurem does do a good chunk to his team, but if he has like an Assault Vest Conkeldurr, maybe a specially defensive Mew, even Bisharp to an extent, like let's say it was Shucka Bisharp or something, he has some decent measures here, but he is a little weak to it, so not bringing it here is somewhat good for him. I'm going to see if we can switch sides here. Boop. He leads with the Mew, who's just here. We lead with RNGesus because I feel that initiative is going to be important. He does have a lot of bulk, and among his bulk, like Conkeldurr, Venusaur, Mew, Zapdos, those things have the potential to hit quite hard. So I want to make sure I stay out in front of him this time. I'm not going to lead Hippo to get up hazards. I should have other opportunities to get up hazards, so RNGesus made the most sense. Tornadus too, because I thought he might lead Venu to get the quick Mega off, seeing that there was no Kyurem, so he didn't have to worry about Terravolt and breaking through the thick fat with Ice Beam. But he decides to lead with the Mew. We Volt Switch and do a ton of damage. Immediately I'm like, oh snap, this is like an offensive Mew. So I'm not quite sure if I'm really well prepared for an offensive Mew. I decide to go into Big Mama here to set up the Sand. I figure maybe an opportunity to get up rocks. I thought, this is going too slow, I thought we could live any hit. But, as you're soon about to see, we do not. This Mew, I don't know what else it's packing besides the Nasty Plot, but it's got the Ice Beam, which is actually, in hindsight, really strong against my team. We are slightly ice weak. He KOs Big Mama in one shot. We send out Excadrill, who is unfortunately Mold Breaker because I'm stupid and I didn't know what I was doing. We just knock it out real quick with Earthquake. I almost SD'd up in case he wanted to Wisp, but I was like, nah, he's an offensive set. He's not gonna be packing the Wisp. Goes into Haxorus, and Haxorus here, we don't have Cletus, so he can spam Outrage pretty freely, especially since our one Steel type is weakened. However, like I mentioned, we did pack a little more physical bulk on Manaphy in order to help deal with some of these attackers. And I wouldn't have wanted to bring it in this early, but I didn't really have any other choice. I didn't prep that well for Haxorus. We hit him with the Ice Beam. I expect him to switch here because I think he could be Scarf Haxorus as a countermeasure to cure him. So I click the Scald. I feel like it's a no drawback play as he goes hard into Bisharp. Now, remember, Poseidon has never gotten a Scald burn in 2 seasons with the Kinglers, so we're going to celebrate this one a little bit because we finally got our Scald burn. Poseidon, thank you for finally showing up. HP fighting again to take out the Bisharp. First Scald burn in 2 seasons. That's what I'm talking about. We're saving all of our luck for the end of the season here, I hope. And Poseidon's sitting pretty healthy here. It does give him a free switch into Venusaur. I don't want to let it go down yet because then if I do, I'm really weak to Scarf Haxorus. Plus, Beef Jones, especially defensive. Unless this is a physical Venusaur, which is possible. I do believe it gets Swords Dance and it gets stuff like Seed Bomb and Earthquake. Yeah, I think Snorlax is a pretty safe counter to it. We are going to just curse up because that's what Snorlax is here to do. I sort of expected him to go hard Conkeldurr there. Conkeldurr. How do you guys say it? Sort of expected him to go hard Conkeldurr there. But I figured if I got some curses up, it'd be okay. We do get the 2. He is staying in, and I figured since I'm poisoned, he might try to stay in and just get rid of me there. But as with most curse sets, we are packing the rest. We are packing the Sleep Talk. And remember when I mentioned his normal resist included Bisharp? Bisharp is no longer there. So at this point, we're at +2. All we have to do is basically roll a couple of Facades, and we should be in pretty good shape. We're going to keep clicking that Sleep Talk. Let me see if I can speed this up a little bit for you guys. We roll another curse, which isn't a bad thing. Again, that Conkeldurr can still do some big damage to us. He's going to go into Haxorus here because I think his plan. Now I don't know for sure, but I think his plan is to just like get some damage off, wear him down, put him in range for Conkeldurr to at least handle it. But right now we're also at +4. So we're going to be able to take out that Haxorus without, what do we take? 19% from Brick Break. We were able to take that pretty well. He does get the crit with Zapdos. It doesn't really matter. He does live on 25% after the Facade. So unfortunately, I have to rest up again. If I had not been crit, I might have been more inclined to be more aggressive with my play here. But I figured I'll just play it safe because at this point, Snorlax can actually just win. Excuse me, Beef Jones can just Beef Jones can just win. Unfortunately, we keep rolling curses. Like we're not. This Zapdos is just going to sit in front of us and get healthier and healthier and keep T-bolting. But luckily, we are specially defensive. There's really, in hindsight, that Venusaur is doing a lot. I think that might have been like maybe a modest or an offensive Venusaur. Yeah, I don't know, but he gets us low enough where like we are vulnerable to crits and stuff. So I want to keep Snorlax healthy. I know this isn't the most exciting thing to watch, but Beef Jones is determined to get it done. He's determined. There's that curse again because that's all we ever roll with Sleep Talk. Spoilers. At this point, if he does not crit with Conkeldurr, Beef Jones just wins. If we're playing an odds game, I'm going to roll Facade sooner or later, even though, what was that, like 4 turns, I think, that it didn't. I honestly can't. I wasn't counting. Me as fuck. That's funny. If we would have rolled a Facade there, it would have been GG for sure. He does get the nice big old juicy crit on that power-up punch. Gets him to +1 attack. If we could just roll a Facade. Nope. Not enough. And unfortunately, because we wake up and click Facade, we just barely miss out on the KO, even though we are max attack and max defense. So the Drain Punch from a +2 Conkeldurr is able to take us out. I don't have a whole lot of options here. I do decide to go Torn. I hit the Hurricane, which is important. +2 could have done some damage to Thundurus, and I still felt Thundurus had some use. I almost went Manaphy there, but I felt that would give him the free Zapdos switch in. I wanted a Fighting Resist in front of the Conk, and I could always use Manaphy here as a sack, as I did. That gives me a chance to go into Thundurus. I want to leave it up to Z's there to take on the Venusaur, just in case I was wrong and he was physically defensive or something. And as we can tell from that damage, the Zapdos is a little offensive, so Volt Switch does pick up the KO. And we were going down to anything anyway, so Volt Switch it didn't matter. Volt Switch was the hardest way to hit him. And we luckily hit our sharp beak boosted Hurricane. Z's coming in clutch, picking up 2 kills in the end game there. We were able to notch the 1-0 win, which brings our final result. Well, not final. We still have one more week. We're sitting at 6-1 with a plus 24 differential. That means no matter what we do, if we get 6-0 next week by Tony, then oh well. Like, we still make the playoffs. It would be really cool to have the number 1 spot, but he's also undefeated, and I'm not going to count on him to lose to get the number 1 spot. We're gonna prepare for a long playoff road. It's not set in stone. If any CIL fans or coaches even are watching this, it's not set in stone. There are a couple spots up for grabs from the Sun Conference. The spots are definitely already taken. We have the Surf and the Kinglers. That's us. As the top 2 seeds, no one, no matter what they do, can take those top 2 spots. And in the Moon Conference, the Cocoa Puffs, coached by the beautiful CantoCast Blue, have locked up the number 1 spot. There's still some like wiggle room for wild cards there, because the Blastoise and the Solgalios are tied at 5-2 each, and their differentials only 1 apart. I'm not going to do a whole breakdown analysis here, but like there's definitely a lot of opportunities for maybe like 3 or 4 teams who are kind of on the bubble to grab those last 2 spots. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. Fortunately for us, we don't have to worry about it. So next week we're playing one of, in my opinion, our worst matchup of the season is going to be our last game here against Tony and the coach of the something Surf. I can't remember. He came late in the season, and it's not on the spreadsheet. But he's got a really menacing team. Swampert, Tapu Koko, Jirachi, Latios, Polytoad, Marowak, Alola, Amoonguss, Druddigon, Togekiss, Raichu, Alola, and Blaziken Blaze. He's got rain. He's got electric terrain. He can beat our sand mode with speed, regardless of weather, because of Raichu. So it's gonna be a tough one. We've definitely got our work cut out for us. Luckily, like I said, we're not too concerned. So maybe expect to see some heat brought to the rain. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and have a good rest of your weekend, guys. Bye.